We're here in the age of AI, but can you trust it for legal guidance? Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It is Jobeth Bowers, your Elkton accident and injury attorney, coming at you with a really interesting one today. And it's about all of the innovations that we have really obviously been seeing. If you have somehow missed the influx of AI innovations that have been taking the world and the internet by storm over the past couple of years, then it must be really comfortable under the rock that you're sleeping. So kudos to you for being completely oblivious to this, but it makes me wonder how you even found this podcast. So AI, people are using it for all sorts of stuff, funny little images and illustrations, and now they're starting to use it for research. And the question that I ask, and I want you to ask, is can you really trust it? And the answer to that question is kinda. And again, I am answering this question and asking this question today. All right here in July of 2025. So the answer that I give today maybe expires in 6 months, in a year, because I've definitely, not only have I seen all of this coming to play recently, but I've seen improvements over time. Now you can actually go to some of the image generators and they'll generate images with normal hands, not 16 melty fingers and all sorts of stuff like that. But for legal advice, it doesn't quite hit the mark perfectly. And I've got an example. All right. So I was looking through and I'm like, what's a good example of something that when you search it, that AI overview that pops up on Google, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I'm about to show you. Where's it close, but misses in very, very important situations? Because this is the thing. Hiring an attorney is really, if you're doing it right, about maximizing the value of that representation, that relationship, and that engagement. It's knowing, and why most people hire us to handle their accident cases here in Cecil County is that they have learned, whether it be through Google reviews or through referrals and endorsements from friends and family, or just the myriad of things that exist on this channel or the website or otherwise, that we know a vast amount of what's happening with these cases and truly how to maximize them for the clients. And it's those misses, those things, as I've talked about in previous episodes, of if you come to me day one, if my office reports all the claims, if my office is the air traffic controller, it could put an extra $10,000 in your pocket. Now, not every time, but it all depends on our ability to navigate these things, because there's a completely, different order of operations. It's kind of like when you see those little, hey, do this math problem, and it involves the order of operations. And then there's comments on social media with all sorts of different answers. It's because people didn't do the same steps in the same order, and it makes a big difference. So there's nothing shady happening. It's just, hey, if we do it this way, it works out better for our client. So my office does it that way. So here's a great example. Let's say you hop onto that search engine that has the AI overview, artificial intelligence, for those of you who are somehow unfamiliar, and you start reading that. You hop in there, you ask them the question, what is the statute of limitations in Maryland? For anybody unaware, the statute of limitations is a date in which you must either resolve the claim for, or file the charges if it's criminal or what have you, initiate the action in the courts, or either initiate the action in the courts or resolve the situation. Otherwise, it's gone. So we've asked that question. In Maryland, the statute of limitations for most personal injury and property lawsuits is 3 years. Here's my first problem with this. The word most, it's a qualifier. It means not every situation. Stop. Think about that. You've asked a question, you've gotten an answer that admittedly within the answer is a partial answer. So it suggests that there is some situation, and I'm going to talk about one of those situations in a moment here, and it's a big one, one of those situations in which this doesn't necessarily apply to or isn't completely accurate. It admits within its answer that it is partially inaccurate. For medical malpractice claims, it's the shorter of 5 years of the data. I don't even know if that's accurate. I think it's 3 years. I don't know because I don't primarily handle medical malpractice. I refer those out to attorneys who do that because it's highly specialized, kind of like what I do. Criminal cases vary. There's a line drawn between misdemeanor and felony cases. Felonies have no, and the misdemeanors, some of the misdemeanors have a 1 year statute of limitations. In fact, I think, and again, not a world that I dabble in anymore. I'm only doing auto accidents, but I think the misdemeanor statute of limitations in Maryland is 1 year. So right here out of the gate, I believe this to be straight up wrong. Don't quote me on that because, again, it's in a practice area that I don't handle. So that may represent some change to the law because I did handle some criminal cases probably 8 or 10 years ago, and I was up to speed on it then. But I certainly, if there have been changes in the legislature since, I have not stayed up to date with them because I don't necessarily need to. They don't come into play into my practice. But here, most personal injury cases, 3 years. I want to just drill down on that because this leaves out something super important. There is a subset of cases, and technically, what I'm about to describe does not talk about the statute of limitations. It talks about a notice requirement. You must put certain entities, if you believe that they have caused injury due to negligence, if they've caused an auto accident, although this is broader than just auto accidents, it covers other injury situations, you must put them on notice within 180 days or a year, depending on the entity. A lot of times these are government entities. Okay. And let's not even talk about if you get hit by, let's say, a federal vehicle, totally different set of rules, even though that may have happened in Maryland. Let's say you get hit by a car accident caused by a postal vehicle, which happens. I've handled numerous ones of those. It's a totally separate track. In fact, it actually has a 2-year statute of limitations. So it's totally irrelevant to what that AI overview said. This AI overview is, at least for the injury stuff, mostly right-ish, but be careful. All I'm really saying here, and this applies to any search you're going to do, not just an injury, not just a lawyer, not just something legal, any of these things. When you see that AI overview, take it with a grain of salt for right now, because you can't necessarily fully answer all the questions. If you don't put that government entity on notice within that time frame, whether it be 180 days, whether it be a year, or there's another claim process here in Maryland for, if let's say that you are a passenger who doesn't own a vehicle and nobody in your house owns a vehicle. And we don't see that much here in Cecil County, but it happens. Okay. You're just a rider. You're not under any reason obligated to have auto insurance. And you somehow happen to be a passenger in a vehicle that's uninsured, and you get hit by a vehicle that's also uninsured. So it's especially here in Cecil County, we rarely ever see it, but it happens. There is a claim process for those with very, very strict and tight notice requirements. Now, I want to take you back to this AI overview. You see where they mention any of that in here? Yeah, I'll give you 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Trust me, it's not there. I've looked. You let that time frame go by, you pick up the phone, you call my office a year after that happened, I can't do anything for you. I might be able to call some of the medical providers that I have relationships with and help get you on a payment plan or negotiate some of those bills. But as far as getting a claim paid, in that scenario, not going to happen. You get hit by some government vehicle, doesn't matter what it is. It could just be something that is contracted. It could be school buses sometimes fall under that category. Sometimes. That's really the problem with these, is that there's way too many sometimes to trust a simple Google search. Let's take it in a different direction. Let's take it in a totally different direction. Let's talk about picking a lawyer. I went and asked that same Google, and I'm digging into the AI overview, who to hire as an injury attorney for an accident here in Elkton, Maryland. Let's see if it got it right. Car accident legal representation in Elkton, Maryland. Several attorneys are highly recommended. Bowers Law. I would hope so. I work my behind off for my clients. Frybot Law. I have no clue who they are. They may be fantastic attorneys, but they're certainly not here in Elkton. I have no idea who they are. Not talking bad on them, just stating the fact that they may not be the best choice. They're certainly not here. Let's see, who else do we have? Other strong contenders include an attorney who has a sign on a building here in town, but if you go to that office, nobody's there. Justin Hill, who's a fine attorney, but he doesn't do auto accidents. In fact, and I think Justin will be fine with me mentioning this, he refers any of his auto accident cases to my office to handle. Scott and Scott, not sure. I know that Charlie Scott's fantastic. I think of him more as handling some criminal stuff, some estate, some property stuff. I know that he handles a bunch of things, but I don't know how much auto accident or injury work that he does. Look at this. Again, I don't know who this Frybot Law is. And I don't know that Adam actually runs his office here. I think it's just a placeholder. Justin is great, but does other stuff. So it's really tough. Like, and you call the wrong place, you hire the wrong attorney, and you don't get the results that you deserve. And I'm actually going to research that one firm because I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. And I don't even know if they're in Maryland, because with our proximity to Delaware and our proximity to Pennsylvania, Google doesn't necessarily understand. Certainly Google might, but the AI that is working behind the scenes doesn't necessarily understand those state lines. I will tell you, if you go and try to hire a Delaware attorney for a Maryland accident, you are not going to get a result that you should be happy with. I have seen it hundreds of times. I've got horror stories upon horror stories. And these are not, if I were to tell these stories in full detail, they are not to call out the attorneys, because the attorneys, the cases are handled so differently in the entire state. Any attorney would probably do the same disservice as any other attorney on a Maryland case if they're a Delaware attorney, because there's just a myriad of rules that are vastly different from state to state. My office has developed great relationships with a handful of Delaware attorneys. That way, for the same reason, if something happens and there's a Delaware component to it, I bring that attorney in, no extra cost to the client. Or if it has to be litigated in Delaware, I refer it to one of these partner firms, and they refer work back to me. Why? Because they don't want their clients being sold short. And I feel the same way. So that's all I got for now. The warning, the takeaway here is just be careful. Double check and triple check, and not just with the law stuff. I'm using a law example because I'm a lawyer and this is a law podcast, okay? But any other Google search that you're going to use and look in the AI overview, you're probably going to find irregularities, inaccuracies, discrepancies. So before you take it and plant a flag and run with it, just be careful, double and triple check that information. As always, we're here every week almost, except for holidays, providing great insight, information, guidance. If there is a question that you have that you want here on the podcast, shoot me an email, info@bowerslawmd.com. If it is not about the accident, injury, auto insurance, health insurance sort of world, that's okay. I'm going to bring a guest on, somebody that actually knows what they're talking about in that realm. And we're going to get answers to those questions for you right here sometime in the future. Schedule permitting, we'll make it happen. So make sure that when you're sending those emails or reaching out otherwise, that you let us know that you want it on the podcast. Otherwise, we're just going to answer your question and leave it at that, or refer you to the appropriate attorney to handle it if it is not accident related. That's all the time I got for this week. Thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Attorney Bowers, your accident and injury guy, right here in my Elkton office. Have a great week. Be safe out there, everybody.